Welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome to another video. So this video is going to be a bit longer, so feel free to use the chapter codes down below or the chapter markers to kind of fast forward to wherever you need. So this video is, and I can't believe I'm already recording this, it's been over 12 months or just over 12 months since we've had the Model Y Performance. So we picked it up pretty much a year ago, 27th of Feb. And yeah, we've done quite a lot of kilometers in it compared to what I would normally do in a car, I'd say, because we've got multiple cars. And yeah, let's talk through it. So in the past 12 months, we have essentially driven, and this is just a screenshot of the car that I'll put up here, about 12,719 kilometers. We've used a total of 2,284 kilowatt hours with an average of 180 watt hours per kilometer. We'll do the comparisons later versus petrol and all of that stuff, but 12,700 kilometers is the rough average over the past 12 months. So before this, I have been a, I guess, ICE car enthusiast, and I still am, I guess. Coming from a Volkswagen Golf that's modified, that goes pretty much just as quick as the Model Y Performance. So pretty much going back to the roots of this channel, I essentially created this channel because I wanted to ensure that there's a place online where I could share my thoughts as a real pure car enthusiast to everyone else who wants to watch or find out more in terms of how is the world of electric, what's been great about it, and what's not been so great about it. So my personal situation, so we're a family of four, my wife and two kids, and so we essentially use the car as an everyday car. It's probably the car that we've actually used most in the household over the past 12 months. In fact, so much that originally my wife said I could drive, I could do whatever I want to the car. She's not going to drive it, but you know what? She's taken the car today, and she's pretty much been taking it every other day too. So I don't get to drive it as much as I'd like to, but you know what they say, happy wife, happy life, right? So I'm still happy that she's enjoying it, and I also get to enjoy it at times too. But at the end of the day, it's been quite good, and that's my overall perspective. Now let's dive down into all the other details. We've got a big agenda for you guys today. Now, I want to preface to say that just remember, I am by no means a car journalist. I am just a crazy car enthusiast and a tech enthusiast. You guys may not have seen so much tech on the channel at all, actually, but I will be getting through to some of the tech stuff soon. I will be trying to load up some more videos this year as one of the channel goals as well. So not just particular EV stuff, we'll load up a lot of EV stuff as well, and we'll probably do or start a lot of short form videos as well, just to ensure that I can give you guys more additional content as things come up. Because these longer form videos, they take a longer time to record, then the editing takes a lot longer too. As you guys know, news comes daily and very, very quick, so I want to be able to give you guys the opportunity to also hear all of that news too. So as I said, I'm no car journalist, I'm no expert in writing or providing information. I can, however, give you my pure experience as a family of four, and how we've kind of handled everyday life having the Model Y over the past 12 months and how that's been. So let's start. So how does the car drive? The car drives exactly like it does from day one, from how it physically feels. However, there are some aesthetics that have evolved over the past 12 months, especially in the terms of software updates that has helped improve the actual driving ability of the car in terms of how you actually feel. So what do I mean by that? So I guess the easiest example I can give you guys is the hardware for the car has not changed. It's been the same over the past 12 months, over the past 12,000 kilometers that we've done. So the steering is exactly the same. You've still got your three settings. The suspension is still the same. There's no settings to that. You know, the wheels themselves are still the same. I haven't changed any of that. However, there is a couple of things that have changed that has helped the driving experience improve a little bit more in terms of safety and general usage. So the two that I found based on software updates over the past 12 months that have been really, really good or helpful, one of them is the blind spot monitor. And so what I mean by that is, previous to the update, when you used to indicate on the left and the right of whichever camera you had, the screen would pop up showing you the side camera that's used for Sentry to see kind of on the left side or the right side of the vehicle. And it'd just be the camera only, even if there was a car in your blind spot. What happens now after the update is there's a red kind of little bar or line that kind of shows up, sort of flashing, just to kind of bring attention to you when you do that. So how's that helpful? Well, normally when you're looking in your mirror on the side, you're looking probably at eye level and you're either looking a bit to the left or the right. When you're indicating, you don't always have to necessarily look at the camera. You can if you want, but it also has the added bonus now of the red warning lights or the red warning bars that comes across, so that even when you're kind of half looking, you can kind of see it on the corner of your eye that there's red, so you can see it there, followed by however you are going to drive. Now some people may find that really useful. I know some people may not find that useful at all, but I thought that it was quite nice to have, just a little added gesture of importance. So that's the first bit. The second bit that has improved a lot is, it's probably one thing that has turned people away from Tesla, and that's some of the controls that you can actually access now through the steering wheel or the left scroll wheel, as opposed to everything through the screen. So I know there's variation of opinion. Some people hate not having physical buttons, and some people love the simplicity of Tesla, where it's more of a minimalist approach. So previously, you know, the likes of, say, adjusting your aircon, you could only do that through the actual car screen and adjust it from there. However, now you can actually, with the new updates, you can actually hold down the left scroll wheel, sorry. You can go flick it left and right, and you can go select the aircon settings as an example. You could turn up the speed, you can turn down the speed, you can adjust all of that through just the left scroll wheel without needing to take your hand off the steering wheel or to take your eyes off the road to then specifically look at all the settings, along with trying to touch and fiddle around with it. So that's a good secondary backup there, and that's just, I guess, two quick examples of how some of the software updates have improved the driving experience for me. Now, when I bought the car, I bought it really for my family because of the shape. Then, as a car and tech enthusiast, I love the technology, I love all the stuff you can do with the app, and it's a performance variant. So it goes fast. There's a lot of instant torque, and it's unbelievable for what it is. You know, when we ordered, there was absolutely nothing else out there that could even compete. So my view was it was going to be the best thing that I could get at that point in time. Is there anything else better? You know, potentially, right? It's everyone's obviously got a valid opinion. My view, personally, as a whole package, I don't think there's anything that comes close. If you're talking about performance-wise, yes, absolutely, there are cars that are faster than the Model Y performance, right? Look at the EV6 GT, look at Ioniq 5N, even the Model 3 performance, right? You know, those are just three examples that are even quicker than this car. But I really bought it because my wife and I, we love the shape. We know that it's got a lot of tech, a lot of good stuff there, and Tesla's known to be very good with how they manage their software. Their software management is out of this world. And so from that aspect, we decided to use our hard-earned money to put it to the Model Y. And that was probably a really big decision, especially knowing that the first time it was announced for the Model Y, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. Probably 5 years by now. And then, you know, now it's a car that we've owned for 12 months. So it's been great. So let's talk about specs. So the spec that we have is the Midnight Silver Metallic. It's got the white interior, and there's no FSD, no EAP. So FSD is full self-driving, EAP enhanced autopilot. So we've essentially just got the white seats and the Midnight Silver Metallic. Now in terms of how much we paid, so I do have a invoice here, the original invoice, which I'll overlay on the screen now. So you can see 2023 model, build date was 12th of January. The order fee at that point in time was $350. For the Midnight Silver Metallic color, it was additional $1,500. The white interior was also another $1,500. The difference to have the performance all-wheel drive spec was $33,000. And then there is the delivery fee of $1,375. So once you add on all of the taxes and charges, the total is $108,063. So just about $108,000. Now that was 12 months ago. So let's have a look on how much can you get one today. Alright, so what you should be able to see now is the Tesla website on the Model Y. And so you can get it for a base rear-wheel drive spec as less as $70,817 drive away for the white spec. So there is a fair difference of about $38,000 or thereabouts, if my mathematics is correct, to get that base model. But if we spec it to the exact one that we've got here, and actually if we look at the order date, so if you do order one now, website clearly hasn't been updated, but it says February to April. So now being the first week of March, you've essentially got, you could be waiting, you know, up to 8 weeks at most, not even 8 weeks, to be in your car as soon as you order today. So we've picked the performance model. Let's go to the Midnight Silver Metallic, and let's go with the white interior. We're not going to select enhanced autopilot, full self-driving. So that brings it to $103,432. So I paid about $108. Now is $103, just under $103,500. So there's a difference of about $4,700, just under $5,000 difference from that 12-month period. So if you can get one today, just over $103,000, that's essentially a couple of grand less than what I paid last year. And so that kind of also leads me to, if there's $5,000 less to buy it now, how much are people selling it for in the used market? Now, I know everyone's got a totally different opinion on buying cars and resale value versus not. I'm a firm believer of, if you're going to pick the right car and you really do want the car, you probably shouldn't be thinking about resale value. For some people it matters, for some people it doesn't. My view is, if it's the right car for you and you really love it for whatever the reasons are, or you really need it for whatever those reasons are, then it's a car you should get and you should enjoy it. Anyways, let's go over to the car sales website. Now, the carsales.com.au has not sponsored this channel, has not sponsored this video, but it is a website that I often visit. It is not the be-all and the end-all, and there potentially are cars that are sold that are much more in terms of value, also much less in value. But we're just looking at a point in time. So today is the first week of March, and so for a Tesla Model Y Performance, the cheapest advertised on car sales at the moment, $79,800 excluding government charges. Add a couple of $1,000s to that in terms of the transfer and stamp duty fees and all of those government type fees, a couple of $1,000s to that amount. And so say $81,000 roughly, or $82,000, drive away. And so what does that mean? That means if you were to buy one today, it would cost you about $103,000 versus about $80,000 or 80 something thousand dollars. So, you know, that $20,000, is it worth it for you to have a brand new car? I'll leave it up to you. But that was essentially the depreciation amount over the past 12 months. So it's about 20 something thousand dollars loss. In my instance, if I was to look at the same and you assume that you're selling it at that price too, then it's probably about $28,000. So still a fair chunk of money, right? But yeah, jumping back to the Tesla website. So as I said, base model also Feb to April, long range same, and the Model Y Performance is also the same. So you can pretty much get in one anywhere between immediately all the way through till April. So it's not too long of a wait. You know, when I first ordered, I put my order on the day that the Model Ys opened up. I think it was in June 2022. And then, yeah, it was pretty much a 7 to 8 month wait that I had. And so now it's all come down all the way down to almost immediately up until 6 to 8 weeks. So it's really good to hear. Really good to hear in terms of that supply coming up. Okay, let's talk panel gaps. So I may have covered it off in the original video when I was doing a walk around on my first video of the pickup for the Model Y. 12 months later, I can confirm that I don't have any panel gaps. There are no issues with anything related to that. So the panel gaps as they are quite minimal. I don't think there's anything that looks out of ordinary. There isn't anything, any area per se that has such a big gap or anything that seems uneven from any side. So I don't think there's any issues with panel gaps. You know, for the ones that are watching that haven't got a Tesla and you're thinking about buying one and you have heard feedback that, you know, Tesla has panel gap issues, just remember that this realistically originally existed for all of the US build. So it's the ones that were built in the US that actually don't have as rigor build quality or quality control processes in place. So ever since they moved the factory to China, or they opened up the factory in China to build all of the cars. So in Australia, all of our Teslas come from China. Their processes have been fantastic, and there hasn't really been any issues around any panel gaps at all. Okay, so let's talk issues. So you would have seen that I put up a video last week just around Tesla service, and that was to address one of the issues that I had around the SIM card. And so that's pretty much one of two issues. So one of the issues has been solved, the second one hasn't. So let's talk about the one that has been solved. That's related to the video last week. So the SIM card essentially stopped working, or it was very intermittent and it would sporadically work. There were times where we had, and this happened during our road trip down to Melbourne during December-January period. Basically, we had a SIM card fault where internet just would not work. So even though the icon for cellular or LTE was at full bars, we actually had no signal. So we couldn't listen to music, and there were times when we were driving, there was the blue bar for navigation, but there was nothing in terms of the actual map on the screen. All you could essentially see was a grey box, and everything was greyed out. So it wasn't such a great experience, and it really wasn't too nice of a drive for some parts of it. So basically, we went through service, it got fixed, they replaced the SIM card, and it's been good ever since. I haven't had any issues to date, but again, I'll keep reporting to you guys if there is anything that comes up. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is around the seats. Look, it's vegan leather or fake leather, whatever you want to call it, plastic leather, rubber leather. It's just not real leather. And so it's obviously a different type of material. I still have no idea how we got the stain that we've got on the front seat, and I've kind of given up on it. Like, it's faded out and it'll continue to fade out, so it's barely visible, but I know it's there. And so that's the one thing that I couldn't get. Everyone's had their own different experiences, right? You know, you've seen people pour wine, or you've seen the Tesla video where they pour wine over the white seats and they just wipe it off. Fantastic. Good for them. It hasn't happened to me. My situation's different. And so, yeah, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't get the white seats. But those are essentially the only two issues that I've had. And so that brings us to the next topic. Let's look through the kilometers, the range that we get from full charge, charging to 80 and whatnot. So let's see if I can pull open Tessie. So remember, we have driven about 12,700 kilometers, and I'm going to show you the screen now on how much it's actually costed me since then. And then we'll do a comparison to fuel costs. So remember, for my specific situation, this car was supposed to replace our Mark 7 Golf R, which runs on 98 RON, or premium unleaded fuel, as some may know. And that is essentially a rough average of $2.30 per litre. And so electricity, it varies, right? So depending on time of charge, depending on what plan you're on, my plan has changed over the past 12 months, and I'll talk you guys through in a little bit in a moment. But essentially what you see on screen is essentially my running costs for electricity to drive the car over 12 months. So $190.66. That's literally all it has costed me to do 12,700 kilometers. Some of it, of course, is thanks to you guys, the subscribers, because a couple of you have bought Teslas from my referral link. And so based on our road trip recently down to Melbourne, so it's about 900 kilometers down and back, that 1,800 kilometers. I didn't pay for any charging there because I used the supercharger referral credits. So thank you again for the ones that did do that. But in terms of out of pocket, $190.66. And the fuel cost that I've saved, and remember, we've just had it, this is pretty much a couple of days past 1 year. we've saved, or the total fuel cost in that time was $4,479.34. So we have pretty much saved. So if you assume the 190 is $200, you've saved $4,200 just on fuel alone. So massive, massive difference. And of course, in my situation in particular, right, as a car enthusiast, people normally have much more, I guess, thirstier cars if you're referring to fuel economy. And so with things like that, it just means that if you were to consider moving over to an EV, your actual running cost is going to be so, so much lower. And so remember, this is based on unleaded 98 for just a 4-cylinder sports car. It's modified, but 4-cylinder sports car. So I can't imagine how much you'd be saving if you had, for example, like a C63S AMG or any other twin turbo V8, V10s, V12s, you name it. All of those you'd be saving so, so much more. So that was essentially it, and the efficiency on 95%. And then I'll put up the screenshot again of the picture from the car. It says we've done an average of 180 watt hours per kilometer in terms of the average consumption. So anyway, that's essentially the running cost for the actual car. Let's jump over to battery health. So what you guys see is essentially Tessie. There's an app. There's a Apple Watch app. There's also, I think, an Android Watch app or Google Watch app, whatever you call that. There's this one here is from the website. They've also got an app on Mac and desktop versions as well. I'll make another video if you guys want in terms of all of the actual features, but I've been using Tessie pretty much for the past 12 months, and I think it's a really fantastic app to use. So battery health, battery degradation, how is it? You can see here on the screen, 97.5% is where the car is currently at, meaning 2.5% degradation over the 12 months. Am I happy with that? Realistically, yes, I have no issues with that. And there is a note there that says, degradation of over 30% may qualify for a free battery replacement under Tesla warranty. So at the moment, we've got 78.9 kilowatt hour battery, capacity of 76.9. Now you can see over here these measurements. So the start of it, as you can see, over the first couple of thousand kilometers, it was always around 79 point something. So what I want to suggest to you guys is, if you ever get Tessie or you're looking in your car stats and you look to see that there's degradation almost immediately or within the first couple of hundred or thousand kilometers, don't worry about it. The battery's probably still configuring itself, because my drop started a bit later after more than a couple of thousand kilometers. So mine started, I think, from about 4,000 something, 5,000 kilometers is where it started to drop gradually. Three, two, one. So with this capacity, let's zoom in a little bit. So yeah, you can see all those dots are pretty much at points in time when it was measuring the capacity. So you can see a lot of it kind of started at the first couple of thousand, as I said, till about 4,000 or thereabouts, and that's when it kind of started to drop down, as you see there. So max range now, it says 467 kilometers. I think off the top of my head, the highest back in the past, 482. Where have we got that one? 483 was the maximum kilometers that we've had, and then now it's down to about 467, and we've done 37.3 battery charge cycles. So yeah, that's essentially the battery health, battery degradation. So over the 12 months, we're currently sitting at 97.5. So as I said, not concerned at the moment. We'll see how the next 12 months goes. It's still obviously in the green section there, and yeah. Okay, so let's talk charging solution and how I've been charging. So I've got a Tesla wall connector at home, and that essentially charges with 3-phase at 11 kilowatts. So we take advantage of the full 11 kilowatts, and we charge it probably, say, once a week. We've also got our Tesla UMC, which is the Universal Mobile Connector. I only plugged it in once to update the firmware to ensure we can get the full 10 and 15 amps out of the UMC. But I haven't used it since then. It pretty much sits in my boot as spare. We've also got our Type 2 to Type 2 cable, a 5 meter one. And again, that also sits in the boot just so that we could top up at, for example, shopping centers that do have it, or when we're out, if it is needed, we'll do that as well. But basically, my main charging is probably at home. And then if there's free charges around, it's probably that. But majority is pretty much at home. Let's talk about charging habits though. So my charging habits has changed quite significantly over the past 12 months because I originally used Charge HQ and I only wanted to charge through solar. Now I did that because I've got a decent sized solar system. It's a 9.24 kilowatt system. And so I figured let's just try keep it green and charge via renewables. Basically, the short version is over the past 12 months, what I have learned is if you are charging from a really low percentage, so, you know, say 25%, to get it all the way up to 80, it genuinely will take probably at least 2 days at minimum to actually charge your car all the way through to there. And that's assuming you don't have to go out, you don't have to drive the car anymore during that period. And so what I started to do then was have a look into different options on how I can charge cheaper. And so the thing that has changed for me in particular was the introduction of the electricity company OVO. Now, if you guys want to join, so I'll tell you guys about it. And like I said, there will be a referral code that I can put down below if you guys want to join. So I moved to OVO because they have an EV plan that has cheap charging overnight. Now, yes, whilst that's not charging through renewables, it is ridiculously cheap. So in my circumstance, I will be using it and I will be charging it through that way when I need to. But they've essentially introduced a 8 cent per kilowatt charge from midnight to 6 a.m. But recently, they've also updated their plan again, and they've got free charging through the day. So what that means is any excess usage above what my solar production is, I do not pay for. So to put that into real perspective for you guys, if for example, if I'm generating 6 kilowatts of electricity, say at midday, and I plug in the car to get charged and I've got the full 11 kilowatts, I don't pay for the 5 extra. So what that means is essentially at that point in time, it's completely, I guess, free. And now by free, sometimes people say, oh, well, your usage at that point, you can't really say it's free because it also should take into account your feed-in tariff that you've lost. Well, because the heat here in Sydney has been quite bad over the past, say, 3 or 4 months, right? Over the summer period. I've pretty much had my ducted air conditioning running every single day. So I am actually already paying for electricity at that point in time. So when that free period comes in and it kicks in, if I were to plug in my car, I actually would be paying for the full 11 kilowatt charging per 11 kilowatt hours. So essentially what I've done is I kind of just pair it and I just run everything on all at once during the day, so that we're using renewables as well and we're taking advantage of that free charging, which is why you've seen that my electricity bill to actually run the car is so low. And even if it was 8 cents, if I paid at night as an example, if the car was flat at 79 kilowatts hour size battery, if we do 79 times 0.08 for 8 cents, it actually costs you just $6.32 to top up your entire car. Now you wouldn't run it down to 0%, but just as an example, if you did, $6.32. That is pretty much usually just going to get you, in today's prices, roughly 3 litres of 98 run petrol. So yeah, that's essentially it. Now, if you guys want to know more about my solar system, I'll probably make a video on that sometime soon as well, if I can get through to that. But yeah, I still do use Charge HK every now and again, but not really so much because I just try to take advantage of the charging between 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. now. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about boot space. Let's talk about kids in the back seats and how the back seats are, and front space and all of that. So I have found, in my situation, wife and 2 kids as a daily car, it's perfectly fine. With 2 kids and 2 booster seats, you're perfectly fine. You can squeeze a third person or even a third child in between if you need. A third adult will be a little bit uncomfortable. You definitely won't get me in there as a third adult in the middle seat. I'm a much bigger guy. You'll definitely need to be you'd have a smaller frame to fit there. In terms of child seats, I've got some of them too, and I have put them in before. You definitely fit two in easily. Third one, again, you'd struggle, but it is possible. So 3 children across the back, you'd have no issues. 3 adults, it could get a little bit squashier, but there is still quite a fair bit of space. And because you have no transmission tunnel like in a traditional ICE car, the adults in the back would also feel quite comfortable. Now, front space and trunk space. How is that? I think the front has been amazing. It's pretty good size. You can definitely fit lots of pizza boxes in there. 12-inch pizza boxes, no issues. It'll handle it, and it keeps all the smelly food away from inside the cabin. So that's been really good. In terms of the boot space and the deep boot space, so in my situation, I keep a spare Type 2 to Type 2 cable underneath. I also keep the UMC underneath. And then in terms of the top space, we just put whatever it is we need. For the ones that are interested though, we can definitely fit 2 kids' bikes. I think they're 30 or 40 centimeter bikes. You can definitely fit 2 of them in the Model Y, and that pretty much takes up the entire boot space. But is it doable? Yes, it is. You can definitely do that. So I have no complaints with the boot space. I haven't tried to go to IKEA to buy anything massive in it. But the good thing is with the Model Y, you can push the middle seat down physically so that you do have a full push through. Some other cars actually don't do that at all, but the Model Y definitely does. So you could get things that are, say, 2 meters long, and you definitely could push it through with ease. Okay, so let's talk about what is still my favorite thing about the Tesla Model Y and what do I still not like. Now, if you haven't seen the video that I did for the 6-month mark before, because I talked through it in a lot detail, I'll put a link up here to that video so you guys can watch that. But in summary, my favorite thing still comes down to the app. The app does everything I could want and more. So some of the key highlights that I love about the app: preheating or pre-cooling the car, or preconditioning, to ensure that by the time you get to the car, you can set it to be as cold or as hot as you want. So that's fantastic. I also love that it acts as a key. I don't need to carry the physical key anywhere. So for my situation, right, real life scenario, my wife and kids, we go out a lot. It's always been fantastic to know that if one person needs to drive the car or needs to leave all of a sudden, or we've split up because we've got too many things we need to buy, we could always go back to the car, and we can drop off whatever we need, and we do not have to take out any keys. We don't have to do anything at all. It's connected to our phone. We just open the door. Now, some people will say, yes, that's a first world problem and you could just keep the keys in your pocket. The fact is, you still have to take keys in your pocket. So I don't really like, after being, after being privy to having no key, it is a first world problem, and I do not want to take physical keys around. So it's been such a pleasure to do that. Also being able to look at Sentry mode as an example, all the cameras around the car, looking at it remotely. Now just remember, if you aren't a premium subscriber to that, you do not have access to Sentry mode virtually, or to have a look at the cameras virtually. There's that, and then what else was it? And then also being able to see the location of the car. So, if you're in a big open car park and you've lost your car, or there's too many Teslas, right? So you don't know which one's yours. You could always hit the honk button, or you could also hit the flash the lights, so you could always find your car fairly easily. And then you can kind of also map that against having a look on the cameras to see exactly where your car is, and you can find it pretty easily. So that's a couple of things that I really love, but it ultimately all comes down to the software and the app. So thank you, Tesla, for continually improving and innovating on all of that stuff. Now, the thing I still don't like the seats. Some people love the seats. I genuinely still don't like the seats. They could be more comfortable. There are so many cars that are so much more comfortable. That's all I'm going to say. If you are going to buy a Model Y, just know that most likely the next Model Y that comes is going to have the seats that are in the Model 3 now. So I highly recommend, before you bite the bullet and you go buy one, have a seat in that first and make sure you're okay not having that, because it's probably going to come soon, probably this year. Again, no one really knows. In Elon's words, it's 2 weeks away. Is it really? Nobody really knows. But my view is it's probably going to come later this year. Speculation. So that's probably the only thing I don't like. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Let's talk about true ownership costs and what I have spent. So remember, some things are mandatory, some things aren't. If we're talking about operating costs and what's mandatory, then I've bought windscreen washer fluid, which was $10.99, and I've done the tire rotation, which was $142.56. So just a bit over $150 over the 12 months. That's literally it. And I've spent about $200 on electricity to run the car. So all in all, not a lot. Okay, so let's talk about everything else that I've spent. So I bought some accessories. I haven't calculated the specifics on the accessories. I had tints put on the car, so tints was about $500. Ceramic coating, I think, was about $1,300 or $1,500. So both of them is say $1,800 to $2,000. That's that. We've got the wall connector, so that cost $750. The install for that was about $1,300. So total for charging was about $2,000. Now, just bear in mind that there are cheap alternatives to charging your car at home. You could change the tails for the UMC as an example, and you could do an adapter. There's so many other ways as well. Not everyone has to get a wall connector. Some people do also rely on fast charging only because they live in apartments. So I don't think we can kind of compare and say that it's potentially not suitable. But in terms of the price that I paid for the install, mine was from one side of the house to the other side of the house. So I'm totally okay paying for three-phase cabling to be run from one end of the house to the other end for $1,300. But just know that my situation is different to yours, and so every quote would be unique. So I'd highly recommend you talk to your electrician for a proper quote that suits your specific situation. And so that's pretty much about it. That's all the costs. So we've got tint, ceramic coating. I paid for tire rotation, windscreen washer fluid, and then the charging, the wall connector. And then the only other thing I didn't mention, sorry, I think it was roughly about $200, was the Type 2 to Type 2 cable. I've got a 5-meter one. So for the ones wondering, for the 5-meter one, it's usually more than enough, because usually you'd reverse back into the spot, and usually there'd be the charging box somewhere there within like 2 meters or thereabouts. There hasn't been any situation where I've needed to extend that a fair bit. It's always just been excess cable lying in the ground. If you do want to buy something more, and the next one up is 7.5 meters, that's probably so that you could, if you're blocking someone or if someone's blocking you, then you could kind of extend the cable out there. Okay, so overall, is it a good EV or not? And how does that compare to, I guess, some of the other cars I've driven or I've looked at? Is the car good or not? I think it's an amazing car. I think competition has ramped up significantly over the past 12 months. I still don't think that there is any other manufacturer that is pretty much on par with the software side of Tesla. In terms of functions, features, yes, there are cars that offer a lot more, right? Let's go with the argument of, he doesn't have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Is it the end of the world in a Tesla? No, it's not, but it still doesn't have it. I still find, actually, the voice controls on Tesla a bit clunky. I still like to revert back to Siri in my instance, because I use an iPhone. It's a lot more accurate than Tesla, but that's one thing. But where Tesla has nailed it is ultimately software, right? Like, you think about in-car entertainment. I've got games I can play. I've got controllers hooked up to the screen. I've got access to Netflix, to YouTube, to... There's heaps of other things, and there's also websites that you could go to, like A Better Theatre, I think that's what it's called. And there's a couple of others as well, where you can access other things, like KO Sports, for all you sports fans in there too. So I don't think every other manufacturer has that trump card over them, because Tesla makes the charging experience so good. And also, because Tesla has its own supercharging network, those are pretty much almost never down, or if they are, you will know, because the car will automatically navigate through the various routes to get you through to the destination. So no one else comes close to them in terms of competition yet. But it is coming close, which is fantastic, because I'm all for competition, because at the end of the day, if there's more competition, it drives more innovation. And then us as the end consumer, as the purchaser, as the people who buy the car, we get a much better end product. So I absolutely love competition. So that pretty much answers that. It is a fantastic car. The one thing I will say, if you are considering a Tesla, first of all, is if you are buying one, make sure you use a referral code if you need one. Mine's down the bottom in the description. If you do know someone that has a Tesla already, absolutely use theirs, so they get the credits or the points as well, so they can redeem things as well. But I feel like having a Tesla has a Tesla essentially moving from ICE to EV has the biggest learning curve, but it also has the biggest rewards to reap. So what do I mean by that? So some people have said they hate one foot driving or one pedal driving. Some people absolutely love it. For me, I love it. I think it's pretty cool. I think of it like a Dodgem car, right? You step on it, it goes, you let go, it slows. And then so if you need to drive smooth, you keep it halfway in between and you adjust. But as I said, some people hate it, some people love it. So that's one part of the learning curve, right? So you can turn it off. Then the other part is obviously looking at just the one screen. So your speedo is there, everything is pretty much there, besides some of the controls that you could adjust from the steering wheel. And so that's again something to learn and to get used to. Because in your traditional ICE cars, you've got a speedo in front of you. You've got a separate section for the head unit. You've got buttons, so there's no learning curve if you're moving to a car that already does that or has similar things like that. So you think of like Kia, Hyundai, Audi, any other EV manufacturer that's kind of jumped on board. A lot of them pretty much look exactly like a car, so that the transition is seamless for the end customer. Tesla, you are literally buying something new, so there is a totally bigger new learning curve to get used to as opposed to those traditional ICE manufacturers. Like, you go, say, BMW as an example. They've got electric versions like their iX3, which is just an electrified version of the X3. If you were to get into that versus a petrol one, the only difference is charging. The car is pretty much exactly the same. It's got the charge port, still using 2 feet to drive on your brake and you accelerate. You've still got the dash, you've got all of that. So the learning curve is much more smaller in that instance. But yeah, so overall, my view is Tesla, biggest learning curve, biggest rewards to reap. A lot of the stuff is seamless. And a lot of the stuff is I guess, intangible. It's not stuff that, you can see. It's stuff that you have to experience as owner, like charging, seamless, service experience, seamless. It's things like that. And yeah, so that kind of covers off, is this a good EV? As I said, fantastic car. So let's wrap it up. So would I buy this car again? If I were to buy the Tesla Model Y again, 100% I would buy exact same spec in terms of color. I would not buy the white seats. I've had it once. It's unfortunate that I have had the bad experience. I know a lot of people haven't had the same issue like me, and a lot of people love it. Fantastic. I'm happy for you. In my experience, because I've had that one issue, I'd guess I'd call it I'm scarred, for better use of words. And so I wouldn't do it again. Not for white seats, unfortunately. So I would definitely be getting black seats in the next Tesla I get. And yeah, would I buy from another manufacturer? With the amount of competition there is these days, I absolutely would consider it. It would be very hard for me to jump into another manufacturer, because one of the best things I love about Tesla is I don't need to carry a physical key. If that is nailed by another manufacturer, then count me in, because I hate carrying keys. Hyundai Ioniq 5N, I'm looking at you, Hyundai specifically. If you make another fun car and I don't have to take keys, I'm coming your way. You have my money. That's all I can say. And yeah, but overall, Tesla has been amazing. I would totally buy it again in heartbeat, because of all of the things I've listed. And yeah, so anyways, the wrap up. So we've done 12,700 kilometers in the past 12 months. It's literally costed us like $200 in terms of maintenance, less than $200 over the past 12 months. So very, very, very low running costs. The thing you guys have to remember is, when you're looking at other EVs as well, and I'm not saying other EVs are bad, other EVs have a concept of, because they're from traditional ICE manufacturers, they have service plans, which is every year you take it to them, they do certain checks to check and ensure your car is performing okay. Tesla's model is more of a wait and break type model, where they have recommendations on certain things you change, like your cabin filter, like your tires for the rotation, but there is no actual annual service for you to take in for them to do stuff. So that's why they say it's seamless and there's nothing you need to do, and it's really low operating costs. It's because there is an expectation that because of all the minimal moving parts in the car, you don't really need to do anything. But remember, you do have suspension components as well. You do have brakes and some other stuff too. But it just might mean that it's not changed as frequent. So either way, that's just additional information for you. So yeah, look, that essentially covers everything I wanted to go through in this video. If you guys have watched through the entire thing, thank you so much for your support, because it really does go a long way. I think we're up onto 600 something subscribers now, on the way to 1000. If you enjoyed this video and you're not a subscriber, it'd mean the world to me if you could subscribe. I do plan on, as I said earlier on, introducing some tech content over the next 12 months, along with additional EV content as we start to branch out and we start to explore a lot of other cars and all things electric. So if you have any questions for any of the content I've covered off today, drop it in the comment below. We'll start discussions over there. I hope you guys are well, and we'll see you soon in the next one.